The driveway, once a barren stretch of cracked asphalt, now seemed a stark reflection of the neglect that had settled over our marriage, a slow, silent erosion of what once was. Tonight, however, it was anything but desolate. Instead, it was a disordered spectacle of luxury vehicles. 3 of them, gleaming in the harsh sodium light of the street lamps. A cherry-red Porsche, a matte black Range Rover, and a sleek silver Tesla. Cold shiver ran through me. I knew those cars. I had seen them parked outside the exclusive Italian restaurant where I had spent the last 3 months tracking her every move. The same restaurant where she had claimed to be attending a work conference. And there she was, my wife Elena, standing at the far end of the driveway. She appeared every bit the picture of effortless grace. Her designer handbag slung over her shoulder, her golden hair perfectly styled, shimmering in the dim light. The silk scarf around her neck, a thoughtful anniversary gift from me, seemed to mock the betrayal now twisting inside me. Her eyes were blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. I slammed my car door with force, the sound echoing in the sudden stillness of the night. Elena's smile faltered as she turned toward me, and I watched as her carefully constructed facade cracked. Fear flashed fleetingly in her eyes, but it was overshadowed by guilt, a shallow, almost rehearsed guilt that failed to reach the depths of her expression. "David," she said, her voice dripping with practiced sweetness, but it barely registered. "You're back early." "Early," I repeated, my voice dangerously calm, the words cutting through the tension like a blade. "I tracked your conference, Elena. I followed you to the restaurant. I watched you." Her smile vanished completely, replaced by an expression of forced composure, but I could see the cracks forming beneath the surface. "David, there's a perfectly reasonable explanation," she began, her voice trembling just slightly. I couldn't contain the fury any longer. "A reasonable explanation for 3 expensive cars belonging to the same man, parked in my driveway. That's your explanation. That's what you're going to give me." Now, the fear was undeniable in her eyes, the mask she had so carefully worn for months beginning to shatter. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I cut her off, stepping closer. My voice was a venomous hiss, sharp with years of pent-up anger and frustration. "Oh, don't even try. I saw you, Elena. I saw him. I saw the way he looked at you, the way you laughed, the way you touched him. And you thought you could waltz back in here, as if nothing happened, as if I wouldn't know." The anger that had been simmering in me for months, maybe years, finally erupted. It wasn't just the infidelity. It was the lies, the betrayal, the deceit. It was the sheer audacity of it all, the blatant disrespect. It was the slow, agonizing unraveling of something I once cherished, our marriage. A love I had believed in with every ounce of my being was being methodically chipped away, its death painful and irreversible. Her voice trembled as she spoke, barely a whisper. He's a client," she stuttered, the words hanging in the air. "A very important client." I let out a bitter laugh, harsh and cold, a sound that seemed to bounce off the walls of the night. "Business?" Scoff. "Is that what you call it now? Business trips to upscale restaurants, trips filled with passionate kisses and whispered secrets." My words cut through the silence, sharp and cruel, each one designed to wound. She reached for me, her hand trembling in the air, but I recoiled, the touch repelling me. "Don't," I said, my voice thick with raw emotion. "Don't you dare touch me." Turning away, I could feel my heart pounding, each beat like a drum marking the end of everything we had once shared. The 3 cars in the driveway weren't just a symbol of her betrayal, they were the embodiment of everything she had destroyed. Our future, our dreams, the life we'd built together. They stood as a testament to her selfishness, her disregard for the very foundation of our love. I walked towards the house, deliberately ignoring her desperate cries, the frantic calls that seemed to bounce off me like empty words. Inside, my movements were deliberate, purposeful, born from a cold, calculated anger. I grabbed my phone and made the first call, the lawyer. I laid out the details. The divorce, property division, custody of our dog, Buster. Everything was swift, efficient, businesslike, a stark contrast to the emotional chaos raging inside me. Next I called my accountant. Then a moving company. As Elena's sobs and pleas echoed in the background, they became a distant hum, barely audible over the rhythm of my dismantling of everything she had once been a part of. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, my sanity. It was about cutting away the poisonous vines she had wrapped around me, slowly suffocating me. The next few hours were a blur of phone calls, boxes being packed, decisions being made. Each call, each action was a brick in the wall I was building between us, a wall she would never be able to scale. The life she had so carelessly tossed aside was now being replaced with a new one where she no longer had a place. The following day was even more brutal. Filed for divorce. I initiated proceedings to freeze her assets, severing the final threads that connected us. And as I did, there was a strange sense of calm within me, a certainty that this was the only way forward. The past was over, and it was time to rebuild. I had painstakingly documented every detail over the past 3 months. Each extravagant lunch she indulged in, her wardrobe of designer clothes, the frequent trips she took, and the lavish gifts showered upon her by a man I would later learn was named Marco. My lawyer was astounded by the mountain of evidence, so undeniable and comprehensive, that it left no room for doubt. Elena's meticulously crafted world began to crumble, piece by piece. Marco, whom I discovered had been swept up in her web of lies, was stunned by the swiftness and precision of my actions. He had trusted her assurances, believing that she was long separated from me. But as the truth unraveled, and with it the legal ramifications of her deception, he slowly distanced himself from her. The lavish cars, once symbols of her supposed success, now served only as bitter reminders of her betrayal. Word of her infidelity spread like wildfire among her social circles, shattering her image as the perfect wife and the successful businesswoman. Her carefully constructed facade lay in ruins, like a delicate vase shattered on the floor. Whispers filled the air, and I could almost hear the sideways glances she now faced. The life she had built on deceit was slowly crumbling around her, a foundation of lies that was now sinking under the weight of its own falseness. I observed it all from a distance, feeling a grim satisfaction wash over me. Not the vengeful pleasure one might expect, but a quiet, somber contentment. I had been hurt, humiliated, and betrayed, but I had found the strength to rise from the wreckage. I had rebuilt my life, reclaimed what was rightfully mine, and faced my pain with a calm determination. The anger still smoldered like an ember that refused to die, but it no longer consumed me. In its place was peace, a profound sense of resolve that I had survived and emerged stronger. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Elena walked away with far less than she had anticipated, the price for her lies. She found herself stripped of her luxury, her social standing, and the man she had counted on for a life of ease. She had played a dangerous game and she had lost. The world she had so carefully crafted had collapsed, leaving her with nothing but the harsh consequences of her own actions. As for me, I found a sense of peace that I hadn't thought possible. The house, though empty, was no longer a place filled with the ghosts of our failed marriage. It was a clean slate, a blank canvas upon which I could finally paint a new life, one free from the toxicity of betrayal. Buster, my loyal companion, stayed by my side, his unwavering love providing a healing balm to my soul. Months later, one quiet evening, I sat on the porch, a glass of wine in my hand. The driveway was empty, and a profound silence enveloped the air. But this time, the silence wasn't painful. It was peaceful, a quiet testament to the new chapter that was unfolding before me. I had learned a harsh lesson about trust and betrayal, but I had also discovered a strength and resilience within myself that I never knew existed. My heart still ached, but it now beat with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. While Elena's world had collapsed, mine had risen from the ashes, and as I looked out at the peaceful evening, I knew that the dawn had finally broken.